just about, executing your will as a comedic talent and being recognized. You're responsible for other people.
Yeah, definitely.
And that sort of must have imposed on your sense of narcissism to have that responsibility. And I think the struggle of that first special, which I think redefined you, was you struggling with the fact that you might have a problem, a competitive problem with your children.
Right.
They were an imposition on your life.
Yeah, I mean,
but you loved them.
Yes. Well, they were an imposition because I loved them.
Yeah.
If I didn't care about them, there wouldn't have been an issue.
You'd just be one of those dads. Yeah, I got kids.
Yeah.
I don't know what
I can't really
doing.
spend much time with them, but they're there somewhere. I mean, like when you read about people, famous, great guys from the past, and their kids just were completely and utterly ignored by them.
And fucked up now.
And everybody just thinks that was a byproduct of how great that person was, and we all give them a pass for it. That's the way a lot of people think of that.
But I also remember a lot of this impetus about how you were going to handle kids and how you were going to break a pattern was that your father split.
Yeah, I wasn't going to do what my dad did. I also just it was a huge thing for me. Yeah. Because I always thought that every second of my life should be poured into work and doing what I want to do
and winning.
Stuff. Yeah, and yet, well, I never looked at it that way. I've always been obsessed with the things the projects that I'm doing.
Right.
I always get obsessed with them as work. I never really had this thought of like I want to be the best or I want to be seen or I want to be recognized. I just really wanted to keep being able to do what I do. I love the work.
Yeah.
And part of the work is showing it to an audience. I never would want to exist in a vacuum and not. To me, the whole point is bringing this shit to crowds and making them laugh.
Right.
But anyway, I had seen a lot of like 60 Minutes episodes where they talk about a guy like Bill Parcells or whoever, and he just look at how he's so manic and he's so amazing. And then they talk to his wife, and she always has this kind of smile and says, "We just know that we don't see Bill from." September 1st to February 15th. And that's, you make a deal with yourself that's okay, and I love him. And they always say, and then at the end of the episode, Morley Safer says, they're divorced now. Yeah. So I always remember that and seeing the kids going, Dad loves football, and not much else.
Yeah.
And I always thought that's really not okay. If you're going to have kids, you should don't have kids if you're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I didn't. When I had my daughter, when her mother had her in front of me, everything changed. I just fell in love with this kid. I just felt. I remember she was screaming in the delivery room, really upset. She seemed particularly upset. I mean, kids are supposed to cry when they're born, but she seemed angry to me and upset. Like I expected, just when a kid's crying in the delivery room, everybody's smiling.
Yeah.
Oh, look at her cry. You know, but I was really upset for her.
Yeah.
And they put her on this little table and they're putting stuff around her. Sorry.
It's all right.
Unexpectedly emotional. It's not a story that I tell a lot, so.
It's all right, man.
Let me have some water. Water is good. It washes away your love for your children, so you can talk without a shaking voice. Yeah, they put her on this little table, and they're fucking jabbing shit into her, and they're just rough with her, and she's screaming, and her mother... It was a C-section, so her mom was being sewn up. Her mom was just taken away.
Right.
And I'm, like, in the middle of this. I'm between her mother. Like, do I care for... Also, her mother is who I'd been caring for. She'd been pregnant for 9 months, and I'd been caring for her.
Yeah.
And it all had been about her, the mother. The thing that happens when you have a baby is, for the better part of a year, you live with pregnancy.
Right.
And it's all about that.
Right.
And then you sort of feel when the woman's in labor, you just think this is about getting this woman through this.
Right.
And when it's done, we're going to go, that she and I are going to go home.
Right.
You really don't, as much as you think you understand, you don't really understand that someone else
You just know you got to go to the hospital.
You got to go to the hospital and get through this thing that we've been taking classes about. We've been reading books about it.
Yeah.
I've been coping with her emotional instability and her volatile, suddenly we're going to build a new kitchen. I got to go buy wood, I mean, stuff like that. And she was really into her pregnancy, and I was there with her.
Mm-hmm.
And And then you just don't know till you see the kid's face that there's somebody who's now going to be with you for the rest of your fucking life.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I didn't know how that would feel, but when she came out, it wasn't about my feelings.
Yeah.
It was, this kid is scared shitless, and she's really angry of being taken out of her mom.
Yeah.
And I was pulled for 1 second. There's this woman that's been the center of all this.
Yeah.
She just got cut in fucking half in front of me.
Yeah.
They just made a hole in her belly and took this kid out. And she's being sewn up, and she's alone.
Yeah.
And this kid's over there, and she's alone, and I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
So I went to the kid.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I got my head next to hers.
Yeah.
And I said, she's screaming, purple face.
Yeah.
I said, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay. It's all right. I'm here.
Yeah.
And she stopped screaming on a dime, turned and looked right at me.
Uh-huh.
And, kids can't see an inch in front of them until they're like a couple weeks old.
Yeah.
But she turned her head and opened her eyes and looked at me and stopped crying.
Oh, my God.
And everybody, all these practiced people said, oh, my God, she heard you. One person said she heard you, and then one woman who I didn't know what was, I just heard a voice say, she knows who you are.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah.
And then somebody at that moment stuck a fucking pin in her foot or something and had blood and just screamed again. But I didn't understand that I had a role in this kid's life until that moment.
Right.
And so it became about this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And she changed everything. And one way that she changed it was I expected her to be unhappy. I figured my whole...
In general?
Yeah, just because she lived in someone's belly and she was this, living this perfect life. And then you're taken out to where your skin is raw and being hit by the atmosphere and you cough all the time.
Yeah.
And you just, what an awful life. That's the way I always looked at it. Like, it's just terrible. And the moment you're born, you're coping.
Yeah. Right out of the gate.
You must just be
This
awful.
is it.
Yeah, and you shit and piss and just, diapers and just what an awful life. But after that bout of crying, she was, within an hour, she was breastfeeding and she was happy.
Yeah.
I watched her eat her first meal, and I watched her shit her first shit. Like, I saw the system start working right in front of me.
Right.
And she dealt with it beautifully.
Yeah.
And I was inspired by her.
Well, it's interesting
and
that
having a positive attitude about life.
Well, that moment where I think that happens when you're primarily want to have control of your life and the people in your life, and to a certain degree, and that you were there for your wife, and that moment of concern where you realize, like, there is this raw life in front of you.
Yeah.
And on some level, outside of you being the father, you really have no control.
No, I just had huge sympathy for this kid.
Right.
That was the main feeling that I had. And everything started to flow from that. And I also found out, I mean, I don't like babies as a human. Like, I'm not wired for that. And before I had kids, I was really worried about having kids because I don't like being around babies. I didn't like them. I didn't feel sympathy for babies in the past.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how I would get. I thought it would just be taxing to be have someone screaming or crying, to not be allowed to things on paper that you know about being a parent. You don't sleep very much. They get you up in the middle of the night. I was like,
you knew all that.
Yeah, and I was like, I can't do that. Pregnancy gives you some training for that because your wife gets up in the middle of the night. She has to pee. She needs help.
Yeah.
Pregnancy is like a perfect training program for having a kid. It's the closest you can get anyway. But anyway, what I learned was that I could do it all. I didn't mind getting up. I didn't mind being bleary and unsleepy. I didn't mind her screaming and crying because I just had sympathy for her because I wanted her to be okay. So I found out that I'm a patient person. I didn't know any of this about myself. I'm a patient person, that I had capacity for love, for giving love and affection that I didn't know that I had, and receiving it, and that I was really interested in teaching her and talking to her and interacting with her, all this stuff that I never knew I had. So it made me, and all this stuff about my own anxiety about my life just went away because I didn't give a shit. I instantly knew that I'm going to get old and die, and I wasn't afraid of it anymore because it's about her now. It's about giving her a chance to be happy and have her own confidence in her own life. That's what it became about. But it was a struggle. That I didn't give up without a fight, like you said. In the special, and I laugh at that special for different other reasons than other people. I laugh at it because I was such a young dad. That shit's old school to me now. Your kid gets you up at night. So what?
But I also think it represents the conflict of it sounds to me what happened was, you've got to accept that, as I do, that we are and can be extraordinarily narcissistic. And we have those feelings that, like, we create our world, and we comment on our own brains, and you were primarily commenting on things that you imagined, and that at that moment, it seems, where you became emotional, and in the moment where it really happened, was that it shattered your narcissism.
It also taught me to be a man. It did what Coppola said it would. It taught me to be a man, because you can't fuck around when you have kids. Right. You can't afford to go into a depression. You can't afford to go eat yourself into a stupor and lay on the floor. You can't do it. The kid needs to be taken care of, and the kid needs to be supported. I suddenly had a reason to earn money that was real. And
this whole thing is what really defined the next phase of your creativity.
Yeah,
because all these struggles are still real to you. You still eat ice cream, but now
I still
you
do
have
that
the
stuff. But I've learned, and also I started to look at shit as a real man does. In other words, instead of going like, I'll have an idea when I have it, and fuck the fucking system, and the studios are assholes.
Yeah.
And why isn't I getting the gigs? All that kind of stuff. Waiting around, expecting shit to just happen. I couldn't do it anymore. I had to start going like, okay, what do you want to do? Make plans. Make actual plans. Yeah. And execute them. Have an idea of how you're going to do it. Approach it as a very important thing that you do, and it's your job. Take it really seriously and be dedicated to it, not just in how you feel, but in how you live your life.
You can't live like a child anymore.
You can't do it anymore.
Right.
And can't do it. So that's when I started doing that. And I looked at guys like Carlin and Chris Rock and building a thing from a whole hour from the ground up. How do you do it? There has to be a way. These other people did it. Maybe I can do it. I'd been doing the same fucking absurd 40 minutes. I could never get above 40.
Yeah.
I was doing the same absurdist, silly 40 minutes of stand-up for a good 15 fucking years.
Give or take 20.